The Houston Astrodome, the site of a 1983 opening day matchup between the Green Bay Packers and the Houston Oilers. Second-year coach Ed Biles hopes that the growing pains he shared with his Oilers a year ago are over, while Packers head man Bart Starr began looking up last season as Green Bay made the playoffs for the first time since 1972. A reworked Houston offense pins its hopes on quarterback Archie Manning, a veteran who came to the Oilers last season and earned the starting job this year with a strong showing in the preseason. On defense, Houston has a number of question marks, but once again the Oilers will look to 11-year pro Greg Bingham for leadership. Bingham and his mates will have a lot to contend with, for the Green Bay Packers possess one of the most well-balanced offenses in pro football. The Packers boast the premier receiving duo in the NFL in James Lofton and John Jefferson, and their talents will no doubt be showcased against Houston's new-look secondary. But the Packers also have some holes on defense, so the scoreboard could be ringing up points for both teams at a rapid pace. It's the Green Bay Packers and the Houston Oilers in the NFL Game of the Week. The Oilers were not given much of a chance to defeat the highly rated Packers, but if Houston was to have any shot at all, its defense would have to be at least competitive. But the Oilers' revamped unit was no match for Green Bay's versatile offense on the game's opening possession. An Eddie Lee Ivory run of 17 yards brought the ball to the Houston 25-yard line. From there, Lynn Dickey found tight end Paul Kaufman for the touchdown. The perfectly executed pass play to Kaufman, one of the NFL's most consistent and most durable tight ends, deserves another look for two reasons. First, the block by Ivory, number 40, on the blitzing linebacker. And second, the beautifully thrown ball by Dickey to a wide-open Kaufman. The early touchdown gave Green Bay a 7-0 lead. And following an Oilers field goal, cutting the margin to 7-3, Dickey had the Pack driving again. Only this time, the result was different. Kaufman's fumble was recovered by the Oilers' Mike Reinfeldt, number 37, and Houston had an unexpected opportunity. Manning didn't try anything fancy. He simply gave the ball to number 34, Earl Campbell. Campbell powered into Green Bay territory, and then on a 3rd and long, Manning, out of the shotgun, fired a strike to a streaking Tim Smith, number 83, and the Oilers raced into the lead. Smith, a fourth-year pro from Nebraska, had caught only 4 passes in his NFL career, but his guaranteed grip and surprising speed, plus his 6'2", 200-pound frame, earned him a starting spot at wide receiver this season. Another look at the 47-yard scoring play shows that Smith smartly found the opening in the coverage and then used his speed to beat the defense to the flag. The Oilers had a 10-7 lead as the second quarter began, and their offense, considered questionable at best, was moving the ball well against the Green Bay defense, whose strength lay in its linebacking core. including All-Pro Mike Douglas and George Cumby, number 52. But the Packers' defense picked up in the second period and came up with a play that changed the course of the action. An interception by number 24, Johnny Gray, deep in Houston territory, gave the Packers an excellent opportunity to regain the lead. And they did just that when Dickey hit John Jefferson for 5 yards and a touchdown. The score gave the Packers the lead at 14-10. And amazingly enough, was Jefferson's first regular season touchdown reception since 1981. A second look shows that Jefferson, number 83, went in motion from left to right. And by the time the defense reacted, JJ already had the crucial step that left him alone in the corner for 6. The Packers' defense would have to continue to come up with big plays if they expected to control an experienced quarterback like Manning. But Manning, a former number 1 pick of the New Orleans Saints in 1971, had gained confidence since the touchdown to Smith, and he began to pick apart Green Bay's secondary with short passes. But penalties got in the way. 2 Houston drives featuring key third down completions by Manning were stalled by personal fouls, and the Oilers appeared to lose their offensive momentum. On the other side, Lynn Dickey was not merely good, he was perfect. Late in the second quarter, the Packers quarterback had attempted 16 passes and completed 16 passes. Perfection continued as Dickey hit first Jefferson, then Lofton, as Green Bay looked to increase its lead with less than 2 minutes remaining in the first half. After the completion to Lofton, Dickey finally threw an incomplete pass. In fact, he threw 2 straight, setting up a 3rd and 10 at the Houston 34-yard line with 1:06 left. Dickey, knowing full well Houston was looking past, gave the ball to Eddie Lee Ivory, and the big halfback slashed his way for 21 yards to the Oilers' 13-yard line. Despite Dickey's passing heroics, the run by Ivory, number 40, may well have been the most important play of the first half. It kept alive a drive that was in danger of ending, giving the Oilers a chance to bounce back in the half's final minutes. Instead, the Packers maintained possession, and on the next play, they scored on Dickey's 3rd touchdown pass of the half, and 2nd to John Jefferson. The Packers were now in command, 21-10, thanks to a brilliant first half by their quarterback. And even though only 44 seconds were left in the half, Dickey would get one more chance. On Houston's first play following the kickoff, Manning threw behind his intended receiver, and the ball was tipped into the waiting arms of linebacker John Anderson, number 59. Anderson's interception gave the Packers the ball at the Houston 11-yard line with 35 seconds remaining. More than enough time for Dickey to toss his fourth touchdown pass, which he did to Gary Ellis, number 31. The touchdown capped an incredible first half for Dickey and the Packers. Green Bay, after trailing early in the second quarter, had bounced back in a hurry, scoring 3 unanswered touchdowns to lead at intermission 28-10. The reason was Dickey, the former Oiler who completed 20 of 22 passes, including 18 straight to open the game. But Dickey's performance was only the beginning. The second half would almost bring the house down. If any dent was going to be made in Green Bay's sizable halftime lead, it would have to be done by 2 key players on the Oilers. Running back Earl Campbell would have to keep on making his battering ram runs, and quarterback Archie Manning would need to get as hot as, someone say, on the order of Lynn Dickey. Wisely, Manning began to do this by testing the Packer defense for modest gains. But the Packers were determined to give up yardage only grudgingly, and when Houston did pick up some ground, it proved to be risky business. Still, Manning midwifed the drive to maturity with successful plays like a flat pass to Stan Edwards, number 35, that put the Oilers at Green Bay's doorstep. From there, it was Edwards as the lead blocker out of the I formation, and Earl Campbell followed Stan's course to the first score of the second half. It was the typical hell-bent-for-leather kind of run Campbell had been so famous for, yet had rarely accomplished during last year's disappointing season. This icon of Oilers' yesteryear seemed to rekindle the flickering embers of Oiler hopes as Houston and Campbell closed the gap to 11 points. But the first half star had no intention of resting on his laurels. Lynn Dickey came right back with a scrambling performance that would have made Roger Staubach smile. Dickey continued to throw short, annoying little darts at the Oilers' defense, keeping the drive sustained by finding second and third receivers when the original plans went awry. But even though Green Bay advanced, Houston won a moral victory by keeping the Pack out of the end zone. Green Bay closed out the third period with a 46-yard field goal from ageless Jan Stenerud. Not a bad feat for the oldest active player in the NFL. When the 17-year vet from Norway connected, he upped the Packer lead to 2 touchdowns. But this only seemed to further inspire Houston's 13-year vet, Archie Manning. As the fourth quarter began, Archie spotted Tim Smith, and the young receiver came up with another big reception. To Houston's good fortune, the ball was ruled dead after the tackle, giving Earl Campbell the opportunity to perform his goal line magic once again. This was the Earl Campbell of old, breaking tackles, bruising the opposition, and giving that little extra that had made him football's premier runner for so many seasons. Despite some after-the-whistle activity to the contrary, The Oilers were now telling Green Bay that they weren't going to be the 97-pound weakling to the Packers' beach bully on this opening day of 1983. In fact, the roles were soon reversed as the Houston defense started to raise a few lumps on the Packers. The Oilers were closing in fast, then finally seized momentum away officially on a deflected pass that ended up in the arms of number 56, Robert Abraham. Trailing by only a touchdown, Houston struck while the iron was hot as Manning worked the Packers over with one completion after another. Campbell continued his serpentine ground assault with help up front from Houston's young offensive line. A few minutes later, a crunching block from center David Carter, number 58, created a cavernous hole for rookie fullback Larry Moriarty, number 30. And another opportunity at the goal line was at hand. It was time for Campbell again, and Earl produced with his third touchdown of the half, after scoring only 2 all last season. This one-time Packer rout was now a flat-footed tie ball game. The amazing thing about the Green Bay Packers in general, and James Lofton in particular, is that with one bold stroke, a tie game can become untied very quickly. And late in the fourth quarter, that's just what happened. This shocker was the pin that pricked the Oiler balloon, and Coach Ed Biles knew it. His team had taken control of the game, only to lose it on one play. A 74-yard bolt of lightning helped Green Bay reclaim the lead. It was due to the remarkable skills of one of football's greatest receivers, and a gambling Houston defense that went for the interception, yet had no contingency plan when that strategy failed them. But Green Bay had committed a potential error by scoring too quickly. There was still plenty of time left in the game, and the Packers had been unable to stop Houston for what seemed like ages. Now it was time for some heroics from Archie Manning. Dickey had dominated the first half, and Manning was now the focal point in this half. Both Archie and Dickey had been high picks in the bumper crop draft of 1971, and they were both bringing glory to that graduating class on this day. If Manning could get just one more touchdown, these two could then slug it out in sudden death overtime. Manning completed 3 key passes on the final march, going to Tim Smith and rookie tight end Chris Dressel. Both new faces to the Oilers lineup came up big when Manning called their number. With 48 seconds to play, the man on the spot was Notre Dame rookie fullback Larry Moriarty, and the 5th-round pick came through with a game-tying touchdown. Houston's 21-point fourth-quarter explosion had tied the game, and Green Bay elected to run out the clock in regulation rather than chance a mistake. The game was now in extra innings, and Green Bay won the toss. Houston's defense strapped itself in, hoping to stop the Packers' offensive machine, which was now operating without Lynn Dickey. An injury had sent Dickey and his team record 5 touchdown passes to the locker room, But replacement David Whitehurst stayed almost exclusively with the ground game as the Packers began a march to victory. Green Bay ran the ball 7 straight times and finally found themselves in Houston territory. The summons was made for Jan Stenerud, and with one swing of his foot, the wildest game of the NFL's first week was over. A 42-yard kick won it in overtime for the Packers, but not before they were scared out of their wits by an Oilers team that looks to be vastly improved in 1983. For Green Bay, it showed that they could come back on the road even after relinquishing a large lead, something that good teams must learn to do. This first test was overcome by Green Bay, a team that figures to be a strong contender for NFC Central honors. If this game is any indication, they should certainly make the division chase interesting.